welcome back to my channel. In this session I am planning to discuss something about the Palmar arterial arches. Again a very important question. If you know again the pattern in which you get the arterial arches, it is very easy for you to write about it and draw about it. So let's see how to simplify it. We know there are mainly two major arteries coming to the palmar aspect. One is the radial artery and the other one is ulnar artery. So when you think about the palmar arterial arches, these are the two major arteries which should come to your mind. Now we can say that these two arterial arches are lying in two different planes. One is the superficial aspect and the other one is deeper aspect. Superficial aspect means when you remove the skin, the superficial fascia, the palmar aponeurosis. Once you remove the palmar aponeurosis, the arterial arch which you see, that is known as the superficial palmar arterial arch. Now when you go deeper, after the superficial palmar arch, you will get the long flexor tendons going to the digits, flexor digitorum superficialis and flexor digitorum profundus, along with the lumbricals arising from the flexor digitorum profundus. So when you remove all these tendons, then the arterial arch which you see, which are lying over the metacarpals and the interosseous, that is the deep palmar arterial arch. So that is how you have to locate the superficial and deep palmar arch. And you know, both are having a convexity, and the convexity is actually distal in case of superficial palmar arch, and 1 centimeter proximal to that you get the deep palmar arch. So it is said that when you extend your thumb, the outer or the distal border of the thumb corresponds to the superficial palmar arch, and this is the proximal border where you get the deep palmar arch. So deep is actually proximal compared to the superficial, which is 1 centimeter distal to the deep palmar arterial arch. So that idea you should keep in your mind when we discuss about the superficial and deep palmar arch. So once again, superficial palmar arterial arch is lying just beneath the palmar aponeurosis, and deep palmar arterial arch is lying beneath the flexor tendons on the metacarpal and interosseous. Now let's discuss about the superficial palmar arterial arch. We know that the ulnar nerve and ulnar artery, ulnar vessels, they are actually coming through a compartment which is formed by the superficial slip of the flexor retinaculum. So we have the ulnar nerve medial and now you have the ulnar artery. Then you have the palmaris brevis, which is subcutaneous muscle, and under it this ulnar artery divides into a deep branch and a superficial branch. So it is this superficial branch which is giving a major contribution for the superficial palmar arterial arch. So when you define the superficial palmar arterial arch, it is mainly formed by the superficial branch of the ulnar artery. This is the superficial branch of ulnar artery. Okay, that is the main artery. We can see this. That is the main artery which is forming the superficial palmar arch. And how is it completed? How the arch is completed from the radial side. So the major artery giving branches to this superficial palmar arterial arch is the radial artery, but the branches can differ. So let's see which are the branches, which are the options we have from the radial artery in order to complete the superficial palmar arterial arch. So first we have the superficial branch of the radial artery. Then you have the arteria radialis indicis. Arteria radialis indicis is a digital branch from the radial artery going to the index finger. Then you have the arteria princeps pollicis, which is again a digital branch which is going to supply the adjacent sides of the thumb. That is arteria princeps pollicis. Or it can get a completion branch from the arteria nervi mediana, or otherwise known as median artery, which is accompanying the anterior interosseous nerve. So it is otherwise a branch of anterior interosseous artery. It is accompanying the median nerve, hence it is known as arteria nervi mediana. Okay, so median artery or arteria nervi mediana is accompanying the median artery in order to supply it, which is a branch of anterior interosseous artery. The superficial palmar arterial arch, which is mainly formed by the superficial branch of ulnar artery, can be completed by any of these options. Arteria nervi mediana, which is accompanying the median nerve, a branch of anterior interosseous artery, or it can avail branches from the radial artery through either the superficial branch, either through the arteria radialis indicis or arteria princeps pollicis. Now we have the superficial palmar arterial arch. Now, which are the branches? When we talk about the branches of the superficial palmar arch, which are the branches arising? For that, we need to know which are the fingers or the digits left after supplying, after getting branches from the radial artery. We know there are mainly two branches from the radial artery supplying the digits. One is arterial princeps pollicis, which supplies the adjacent sides of the thumb. Then the other one is arterial radialis indicis, which goes and supply the lateral aspect of the index finger. Now we need branches to supply the medial side of the index and all the rest of the three fingers. So let's see how these branches are arising from the superficial palmar arterial arch. So we have mainly 1, 2, 3 and 4. Four digital arteries arising from the superficial palmar arch. The medialmost one is actually going and supplying the medial aspect of the little finger as the proper digital artery. That is over. The rest of the three digital branches are actually joined by a metacarpal artery. A metacarpal artery coming from the deep branch, deep palmar arterial arch. So what happens? The medialmost artery is a proper digital branch which goes and supply the medial aspect of the little finger. Now the three branches, they are actually joined by the metacarpal arteries of the deep palmar arterial arch, and then they form, these are the common digital branches. Okay, so these are known as the common digital branches which goes to the web space and divides into two proper digital arteries each. Okay, so the common is formed by the digital arteries from the superficial palmar arch and the metacarpal arteries from the deep palmar arch, and this will be divided into two proper digital arteries at the web space, and they will be supplying the adjacent sides of the remaining digits. So the medial part of the little finger is actually supplied by the proper digital artery of the palmar digital branch arising from the superficial palmar arch. Okay, so that is how you say the branches of the superficial palmar arterial arch. So once again, we have four branches from the superficial palmar arterial arch, one proper which goes to the medial side of the little finger, and three common arteries which are formed by anastomosing with the metacarpal artery, and later they divide into two proper digital arteries which supplies the adjacent side of the remaining fingers. Now let's discuss about the deep palmar arterial arch. So superficial was mainly formed by the superficial branch of the ulnar artery. Here the deep palmar arterial arch is actually formed by the deep branch of radial artery. Okay, so here the main artery for the forming the deep palmar arterial arch is radial artery, whereas superficial, the main artery was the superficial branch of ulnar artery. So the radial artery actually was lying in the anatomical snuff box. There it pierces the first dorsal introitious muscle in order to come to the palmar aspect, and it will be lying between the two heads of adductor pollicis in the palm. Now, and how this deep palmar arterial arch is completed? There we have only one option left, not like the superficial palmar arch. There it is actually completed by the deep branch of ulnar artery. We know the ulnar artery, as it reaches the palmaris brevis, it divides into superficial and deep. The superficial already participated in the superficial palmar arterial arch. This deep branch will be anastomosing with the deep branch of the radial artery and completing the deep palmar arterial arch. But the major contribution for the deep palmar arterial arch comes from the radial artery. Now, what are the sets of, or what are the branches which you get from the deep arterial arch? You have mainly three sets of arteries. One, you call it as metacarpal arteries. Two, you call it as perforating arteries. And three, you call it as recurrent branches. So metacarpal arteries we have already mentioned. They are three in number. 1, 2, 3. Three metacarpal arteries which join with the digital branches of the superficial palmar arterial arch to form the common digital arteries. So they are the three metacarpal arteries. Now the perforating arteries, they are again three in number. 1, 2, 3, which goes through the spaces between the second, third, fourth and fifth metacarpals, and they will be piercing the introitious muscle and will be reaching the dorsum, and there they will be or anastomosing with the dorsal metacarpal arteries. So they are the perforating arteries. Now some recurrent branches are actually moving towards the carpal bones, and they actually participate in the formation of anterior carpal arch. So these are the three sets of arteries or branches which you get from the deep palmar arch. That is three metacarpal arteries which join with the distal branches of the superficial palmar arch, three perforating arteries which pierces the introitious muscle and reach the dorsum where they anastomose with the dorsal metacarpal arteries, and the recurrent branch which goes and participates in the formation of anterior carpal arch. Now we have one major accompaniment for the deep palmar arterial arch, that is deep branch of ulnar nerve. Whereas in superficial we don't say any major nerve occupying the concavity, but in deep we always say the deep branch of ulnar nerve occupying the concavity of the deep palmar arch. So hope this is easy for you. So please let me know whether you like it or not. And thank you so much for your watching.